First things first, as always, name and title.
Brad Karger, Marathon County Administrator.
So, Brad, anything new that you'd like to tell us that's going to be happening here in the next 6 months or so?
Yes, there is. I have notified people here in the staff and the county board that I'll be retiring at the end of the year. So my last day will be New Year's Eve on 2019.
So
I've been working here for 31 years, had 3 different jobs. 10 years as Human Resource Director, 10 years as Deputy County Administrator, now 11 years as County Administrator. And enjoyed them all, but I'm interested in trying some other things now.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, you get experience like that in the county office like this. You mentioned, 3 areas here in human resources and management. So you've had your fingerprints on this for the better part of that time.
3 decades, yeah.
3 decades.
3 full decades. So a lot of changes. I mean, when I came here in 1988, people were smoking in their offices. Now, if you smoke out in the yard, it's a federal case. It's the culture changed, the tolerance for smoking changed, the number of people that smoke changed. That's just one of the small things that I've noticed that have changed.
And change is really one of those things that's kind of been something that you've always fought for. Be that a Pride Month ordinance, be that social change, be that changing the addresses here in Marathon County. I know you don't want to talk about that, but
Yeah.
But that's been something that's been constant during your tenure.
Yeah, that's what we do here. I mean, anybody could get hired and just do the same thing they did last year, but that wouldn't be keeping up with the times. And you can't be afraid of controversy. Every change came with a price. And here's the odd thing. After a while, no one's interested in going back. It does get accepted. In the old days, we had a lot of sexual harassment cases. Nobody's going back. We changed the standards in terms of how men and women interact in the workplace, and it's now become part of the ingrained culture. It was a tough sell for a while. We had literally employees in the Parks Department and the Highway Department that were mechanics who were getting Snap-on tool calendars that were topless girls on it. And no one would think of putting one on our shop wall now, but they were all over the place. And when we took them down, there was a lot of upset. In fact, I remember telling one, take it home and put it in your garage wall. I said, my wife won't let me do that. Well, no kidding. No kidding. That's a surprise. Here's another idea. Throw it out. It was just a sign of the times, and times changed, and people had to keep up with it, and the leader has to kind of bring people along.
So then, it's maybe a little early, 6 months away to ask this question then, but would that be one of the things that you're most proud of then from your tenure here?
Actually, I would broaden that out. One of the things that I'm most proud of is the change in the employee culture. I mean, as HR director and as a assistant county administrator, I made culture a top priority. And we went from, they ranked employers in relation to each other based on a survey that employees take every 2 years, and we've been doing that for 15, 18 years now. And we went from the 10th percentile to the 70th percentile. And I didn't do that, but I put together the team that did. And this is now a high-functioning culture here where people will stay here and be attracted to here because they enjoy the kind of work they do and the people they work with. They believe they're doing important work with really high-quality other coworkers.
And that leads me into my next question, because one of the things whenever you ask leaders, be that Bill Belichick, be that a president, be that whoever, they always say, I don't do it by myself. I've got to put the people around me. So that's obviously something that you've taken pride in as well.
Right.
Too.
My job is to be out ahead, to envision, but I don't actually do much in terms of I'm the person who actually implements it. In the early days, I did the actual training, but now it's my idea to, we need to find somebody to do the training, and we've got other people in other positions that actually do it. My job is always be thinking 3 to 5 years down the road. Where does that end us up? And if that's not where we want to end up, why are we doing that today? And a lot of times that puts us in a situation where we don't have enough money to do what we need to do. They'll put us in a better position 3 to 5 years from now. Let's get it. Because otherwise you end up going down a path that actually costs more if you're going to change path later. Let's do things right. Let's figure out what's most important and do that first.
So be out ahead of the curve, right?
Out ahead of the curve, trying to think ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And then, sometimes you get caught. And you have to back up a little bit because a lot of other people can weigh in on a decision. We're open to that. Our leadership team has experience some bumps in the road, but constantly just thinking about, okay, where does that put us? Where will we be 3 to 5 years from now? And even bigger challenges, try to think 25 years down the road. Go back and think 25 years ago and think if you could envision this.
Mm-hmm.
You really can't, but when we're building buildings or something, you better be able to think 25 years down the road, because we're building for the last 50. We don't want to have a building that's not needed or obsolete in 5 years. Just get done with the ribbon cutting, and now it's not what we need anymore. So, our capacity to think long term is challenged, but it really is important.
Then, as far as the next county administrator, then how is that search going to look? Is that something you'll be involved in? And what would you like to see done?
Well, okay, there's a number of questions there. I don't expect to be involved in it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I already have identified the person I think should get the job. That is a current Deputy County Administrator, Lance Leonard. That pretty much excludes me from other processes. But I think that the board is committed to putting together a task force of board leadership and maybe some community leaders to do a statewide search. Everyone's saying national search. That might be a little bit excessive. I'm not sure they're going to get candidates from Hawaii or something like that. There's plenty of other county administrators in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. So it's a regional kind of recruitment. Have a process. I expect Lance to compete, and I expect that I don't know that he'll come out on top. I think that's a little bit too much to say, but I'm certain that he'll be in the top 3, and then they'll have a hard decision to make. Go with what you know, or go with what you heard. Mm-hmm. I like to, when I usually hire people, I go with what I know gets a higher priority than go with what I heard, because I've had some experience hiring people before. Some executives and some people who have high positions in government are so unethical. They will give you an excellent recommendation on somebody that's not truthful, just to export their problem onto you. If I find out anybody here did that, that's going to be a big problem. But people will do that to you, so you have to be more careful when you're hiring people from the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll look forward to seeing where that process goes. As far as yourself, any idea of what's going to happen then come January January 2nd, 2020? We'll let you have New Year's Day to celebrate.
Yeah, to sleep.
Yeah, sleep. Absolutely.
So,
January 2nd, 2020.
January 2nd. Well, not January 2nd, but the first week in January, I'll be heading down to a condo that my wife and Linda and I own on Cape Canaveral, which is on Cocoa Beach and the Atlantic Ocean. And we'll be spending there until at least April and probably May. We're going to sit out the first, from my perspective, the first Wisconsin winter I didn't enjoy. And she's been down there the last 3, maybe 4 winters. So every day I would call her and tell her what the weather is here. She'd tell me it was 82, and she'd talk fast because she's going to the beach. So now I'll actually be going to the beach along with her. But I'm still planning on working. I would like to work in a college position where it's short term. You teach a class called adjunct faculty, either here at UWSP or down there at University of Central Florida. I've done some preliminary exploration, but it's too early.
Mm-hmm.
They don't fill those jobs a year in advance. So there's all kinds of internet and non-traditional classes all over the place, and I believe I can bring something to the table, even though there'd be plenty to have to learn, and still enjoy that. The thing I look forward to on that most is when you teach a class and it lasts 2 months, you know when it starts and you know when it ends. When I work on a project here, nothing ever ends. It's always just evolving and going on. So I would like to work on something that has a beginning and an end, and it's defined.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like an exciting next chapter that you've got planned out there.
I think so. I think so. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to maybe a few more chats like this before the end of the year. Okay. Savor it, and of course, see what the future brings for this position.
Great.